Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Cinematic Schematic, the official podcast of the Cinematropolis.com, your home to thoughtful conversations on film. I'm your host, Caleb Masters, and today we are talking about a movie that has been 65 million years, plus 32 years, plus 6 other predecessor films in the making. That's right, we're reviewing Jurassic World Rebirth. Laron, the people demanded this.
They did.
I didn't sign up for this. The download numbers and the comments and the feedback from the last two.
Yeah.
I had no choice. I tried to avoid it.
They're not reading my letterbox. That's for sure.
No. So listeners, we're doing this one for the fans. We're doing this for you, everyone who tunes into this show to listen to people talk about CG dinosaurs. We're going to start. Instead of our typical icebreaker question, we're actually going to name our top 5 movies of the year so far because, Laron, somehow it is July.
Yeah.
And somehow that means we're over halfway through 2025 already.
Insane. We just finished Oscar season. How the hell are we already
Seriously.
back in it?
I feel like I took a nap. I remember at the beginning of the summer, I said, we've got such a big, great summer ahead of us. And sure enough, we're already halfway through that. Not sure. It won't be long now, and then until we're in prestige season doing Oscars all over again.
Yep.
So we'll be naming our top 5 films of the year so far, and then we'll jump into our review of Jurassic World Rebirth, and then, as always, we'll conclude the show with an in-depth spoiler discussion. Now, you've already heard his voice. He's just my astute co-host. He's way more. He's like the Mahershala of the group. He's got way more charm and charisma than I could ever hope. I mean, I just play it straight like ScarJo. Yeah. I play it straight and flat and somehow become.
But if I'm Mahershala, if you saw him on the red carpet recently, don't ask me about Blade.
Wait, was he doing that?
Don't put me in it. Don't put me in it. I don't want to know. I don't know nothing about it. That's.
Wait, was he really doing that?
He really did that.
Oh,
yeah, he really did that. That's giving very jaded vibes. So I don't know.
Yikes!
He's basically like, don't ask me about Blade. I don't know anything, but don't do it.
Oh,
so
no.
I have no questions. That breaks my heart because I'm excited for Blade. I want it to happen. I don't want it to be dog shit either though. So like, if it's not gonna be great, then
Laron, unlike the Blade movie, you two have returned.
Yes.
You two are back on this show.
Yes.
And we will grieve the death of this Blade movie that I still don't understand how
it's happening.
It has not.
It's not happening. We don't know.
All the forces that want this to happen so badly, and
Yes.
yet it cannot seem to happen. So,
yeah.
My Mahershala, that unlike the Blade movie, is here. He's alive. He's real in the flesh. His costumes have not been sold. His wardrobe has not been sold to Ryan Coogler's centers. So, Laron Chapman, welcome back, sir.
Thanks for having me.
And we couldn't talk about giant dinosaurs, just me and Laron, because then that would just be us probably sounding like 2 jaded old film critics shouting our fist at the sky. We had to bring in someone with a little more charisma, a little more energy, a little more positivity, a little more thirst for the blood of the dinosaurs and also the popcorn. So we brought back returning guest host. He is a podcast host, producer, the principal and founder of Ader Communications, Chad Parizman. Chad, welcome back, sir.
Hey guys, thank you for having me. I am super excited to talk about dinosaurs, one of my favorite topics. I think I told you, like, when we talked back in like January of like, hey, what do you want to come on? I was just like, dinosaurs in June, and then maybe a couple other things that are coming later in the year. But not to give too much away, but I love this franchise. I love dinosaurs, and I'm excited to bring maybe a little bit of a different take than the two of you for tonight.
I am so excited to hear it. Chad, I will say, regardless of how we feel about this movie, I can say with confidence this is much better than the last time you and I sat down and talked about Borderlands, because that movie was a travesty. This, we'll get into it, but it's not quite that level of travesty, that's for sure. I laughed in this movie. It was fun.
No, yeah. This is no Borderlands. This isn't even a Godzilla versus Godzilla X Kong, which we talked about as well. So But there is a new Borderlands game coming this year, which
September.
I'm very excited for. Yes.
Oh, yes. It looks like a return to form, frankly. I mean, I thought Borderlands 3 was fine, but 4 looks way more like it's going back to some things I liked about 2, but also The writing seems like they took some notes and
Yes,
kind of worked on being a little less 2025 friendly with the humor this time around. So yeah, very excited. You know, I might be jaded, but I am sporting. I'm not nearly as good as Laron, but I did have a T-Rex Jurassic Valley.
Oh man, you know, and I had one from our honeymoon in Hawaii. I should have brought my dino shirt. I do have a dino shirt. I didn't wear it because I didn't think that I had one, and then now that I'm seeing yours, I did have one.
Yeah, this is from the Koala Ranch. Yeah, I did. This is also from our
the viewers honeymoon. Don't know. The listeners don't know that I don't have it on. Actually, I take that back.
No, Laron, we're recording on video right now, my friend. So you know,
don't lie to them.
I can figure out how to add it in post though.
There you go.
Yeah. We are dino
fans. Like we've all been to that ranch, so
yes.
We're just gonna say we're all wearing T-shirts. From
absolutely.
Chad's been to Koala Ranch, by the way. Highly recommend.
Yes,
beautiful place, beautiful scenery. There are in fact raptors.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
All right, listeners. Well, before we get into today's conversation, I wanted to note that if you are listening, you can help us out. You can head on over to any podcast player, really. Give us a rating and a review. We actually have Laron was doing some behind the scenes stuff, which I try to do. I say monthly, but it's more like quarterly these days. We got a lot of people listening on YouTube, hence the video recording. Okay. So if you're on YouTube, give us the subscribe, hit the subscribe button, and ring the bell. Clap the bell so you get notified when new episodes publish on YouTube as well. So we're currently largely audio only on YouTube, but maybe in the future get some more video content for folks who like the video stuff. So all that said, let's talk about 2025 so far. This is so I was saying this off mic. Anyone who has come up to me and said, what do you think of movies so far? Or what's your favorite movie this year? I'd be like, 2025 has been really good. Like, I feel like I've seen a lot of just banger after banger, like solid hits. And then I sit down to make my top 5. And I thought, well, there's a couple movies that are bangers.
There's some proximity bias here. It's like, we saw 2 great movies recently.
Yeah. And then I'm looking at the rest of it like, well, these are all pretty good, but not necessarily top 5. So we're only halfway through the year. There's a lot ahead of us. Mm-hmm. Not to mention, Superman next week, which I don't know if it's going to be a top 5 film, but I'm crossing all the things that it's good. So I thought this might be a good opportunity for us to talk about the year so far, and then we could each go through our top 5 films of the year and kind of explain how we landed on what we landed on. And we'll go through the full list at one at a time. Because otherwise, Laron, as you know, we'll have an entire 3-hour podcast
on this segment. Yeah.
So what have you guys made of movies so far this year? Chad, I'll throw it to you first. I know you kind of goes in bursts in terms of catching new releases, but of what you've seen this year, what's your take on the movies?
I kind of had the same thing. I've seen a couple of other hey, mid-year, here's what we've seen here. I think the first thing I would say is the second half of the year looks more exciting. Like even starting with next week in the movies, like we got a big July of movies coming out, and I feel like I'm going to be in the theaters a lot more over the next 2 to 3 months than I have been in the last 6 months. But there have been some, I think, good to great movies that have come this year. So you want me to just start with one? Do we want to go in order, or is this just?
Yeah. Well, start us from your 5 to your number 5. So worst to best, or your number 5 to your number 1.
Okay, so can we count Revenge of the Sith? Like it was a re-release, but it was in theaters. Can we count that?
It counts in my heart because I did in fact also go see the re-release and had such a great time with it. It holds up in all the right ways, and it's still not the best in all the same ways.
Yeah, I think if you want to do your your 5 best theater going experiences, you can do it that way. Yeah.
I've got one that is a streamer that's closer to the top, but if we're not going to count that, I will say new movies to this year. I'll start off with number 5 is Thunderbolts for me, just because I thought it was like a solid double from the MCU, a little bit of a return to form, and I think helped wipe away a little bit of the the Captain America and is getting ready for. You kind of prepped us for Fantastic Four later this summer.
Yeah, no, 100%. That was definitely a big rebound movie. I felt like my faith was at least partially restored in the next couple of movies, especially the Fantastic Four. So great pick. How about your number 4?
Oh, yeah, I'll go through. Okay, so 4 for me is from the world of John Wick, Ballerina. This is another franchise that I will ride or die for. Was it the best John Wick? No. Could you see all of the cuts and the re-edits? Yes. But I still had a great time. I enjoyed it. I want to see more from that universe. And again, better than the Continental, not as good as John Wick 3. So I thought it was a solid entry for the series.
And I mean, it's got flamethrowers, though. I mean, Laron, did you see the flamethrowers?
I still haven't seen it.
Oh, that's right.
I'm still behind.
That's right.
That's the one I missed.
Yeah. It's the flamethrowers are very cool.
Okay.
And good news for you, bad news for the movie. It's already available video on demand.
Okay, perfect. I mean, I love this. I love this universe. So yeah, I imagine it'll be a guilty pleasure of mine. So
yeah. Speaking of guilty pleasures, number 3, I saw this at South by Southwest, so I think that always like gives it an extra plus. A little bit of maybe it wouldn't have been as good if I saw this on like a regular Friday night at home. But I am going to go with Clown in a Cornfield.
Ooh.
It's in the title. It gave me exactly what it said it was going to give me. Total fun horror. Slasher throwback, a nice little twist that you're like, what is this really going on here? So yeah, I had a ton of fun watching that. That was probably the best, I'll say, movie that I saw at South by this year, or at least the most fun that I had at South by this year.
I haven't seen Cloud in the Cornfield yet. Friend of the show, Daniel Bokemper, saw it and had a great time with it as well. I feel like that is definitely South by Southwest material movie. Like the crowd, especially if you saw it, like I imagine probably like a later evening showing with like a horror attuned crowd. Man, the magic of South by Southwest premieres they're really the best film going experience I've ever had.
100%.
It is, yeah. This was the perfect movie like for that. I will say the other movie that that was the a little bit of the flop for me at South by Southwest was I saw the unicorn movie with the Paul Rudd.
Death of a Unicorn.
Death of a Unicorn. Yeah. Really disappointed in that. But Clown in a Cornfield made up for it. Ton of fun there. Yeah, I think it's already streaming on like Shudder. I think or like AMC. I think it's probably already hit there. My number 2, which is a streaming, is Predator: Killer of Killers.
Yeah,
the animated movie. I don't know if you guys have seen this.
Yep, so good, so good.
Again, loved it. Like, turn it on, being like, I'm sure this will be fun, and was just like blown away. No spoilers, but I love that it kind of like, I love the connection points to, I'll say, everything going on in the Predator universe.
Yes.
Right now. And had, just had a ton of fun watching that. At like, flipped it on at like 10 o'clock on like a Thursday night when I just wasn't ready for bed, and was like, I'll give it a try. And before I knew it, I was just like, totally locked in, and was like, oh, this is way better than it has any right to be. And then number 1, I'll say, I'm assuming it is probably on both of yours lists, if not your number 1 as well, but Sinners.
I mean, it's because of the Blade costumes, right?
Yeah, that's what it is.
For sure.
We just really want Blade, and so now that we know that, we know exactly why it's resonated with us.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, Sinners is outstanding. I mean, we'll go through each of our lists, but I'll just say, it's also my number 1 movie of the year by like a pretty considerable margin. Everything about that movie, the soundtrack, that I just watched it again, half watched. I was kind of half napping too. Not the movie's fault. Caleb was just very tired. I turned it on Saturday because it's now streaming on Max, and that movie just cooks when it gets to the bar and stuff. And about the second act. Also on Max, it has the aspect ratio shifts as well, which is not always a thing you get on streaming. It looks fantastic. The music hits, all timer. Although Max, shame on you. Shame on you.
I've heard about this controversy
where they shrink. They do the thing where they shrink the credits down immediately. Like it goes directed by and it shrinks it down. And then like there's probably a decent number of people who don't realize there's a whole like lengthy scene that's really important that plays during mid-credits. So shame on them. I'm pretty upset at Max for that. But anyway, outstanding choice. To tip my hand though. Chad, what was how did you see Sinners?
So I will say, to your point, like I do feel bad putting Sinners on this list of like, there is a very large gap between that and everything else that I just read off. Just want to preface that. I mean, I specifically went out of my way. I saw it the second weekend and I went out of my way to see it in like the biggest IMAX that wasn't too much of a, but like we went to like a midday IMAX and on a Saturday afternoon and it was just like packed. So it was, great experience. Biggest, loudest theater that I could find. I do wonder if it'll hold up on Max. I saw that that was another interesting. It's just like Max just announced, I feel like last Wednesday, like, oh, coming in 48 hours, we've got Sinners. And it was kind of a surprise drop. I don't think it was like on anyone's July 4th radar that like you could stay home and watch this movie.
Yeah. Not the best marketing. Again, the downside of streaming is, you get these incredible titles that like just no one knows about. Do you remember, again, just perpetuating the old man shouting at cloud stereotype I'm going to play in this episode. Do you remember back before there was streaming and it was just HBO and they would have like a movie that played in theaters like 6 months ago and they would advertise for weeks, hey, this is our new movie, one of our 2 new movies this month that you can see, and everyone got excited for it. Like streaming, it's like, nah, guys, it's just there. It's just there. Social media post, go watch it. Ugh. Well, great choices, Chad. I think that we're gonna hear about a couple of those again. But first, I want to throw it to Laron Chapman. Firstly, what have you thought of movies so far this year, and then what are your top 5?
Yeah, I share your sentiments in the sense that I have weirdly maybe felt like that we'd had a pretty great run up to this point, but I think it's really just 2 incredibly well made movies, and then a lot of fun ones that have been kind of dispersed between now and earlier in January. But for the most part, nothing that. Only 2 of these I think have a realistic chance of remaining on my top 10 list as we go into prestige season, so preface that for sure. I want to give without any commentary here, I'm gonna rattle off 5 titles that I think deserve some recognition that are not in this 5, and I'll say Thunderbolts is definitely one of them. Final Destination Bloodlines, The Phoenician Scheme I really enjoyed. Freaky Tales, I had a really good time with. And then just recently saw F1. I'd say that's lower on the list, but I definitely did still have a good theater going experience with that. But the 5 that I would choose in my best list, starting at the bottom here, would be Presence, Soderbergh's movie earlier this January. I think it was in January just one that really surprised me. I was definitely interested in the concept of it for sure. But I was actually surprised, not necessarily by the eeriness of the movie, but really more so the emotional resonance of the movie. And it really stuck with me, that ending in particular of that film. But a really fun concept about the Spectre being like watching a movie from the vantage point of the Spectre was a very interesting way into this kind of psychological thriller. Celine Song's Materialist I really liked. It does seem like this is kind of a polarizing one for a lot of people, but I quite enjoyed it. I think if you're a fan of past lives, then, and if you in any capacity, like, what is your Nora Ephron kind of rom-coms that are a little bit more mature and not as cheeky and silly, but more thoughtful and well acted, then definitely I recommend that.
That's the one movie that kills me. I have not I haven't seen before making the top 5 this year because I really want to see it. Just busy June. Holy cow! A lot of movies in June.
A lot of June things happening. I somehow squeezed that one in between my film festival going. I was like, I have one day off. I'm going to go see this. So.
You're like Hermione in the Harry Potter movies, Laron. Yeah, you know the time turner. She does a thing where she goes to multiple classes. It's the only way she can stay productive. That's what you do with movies.
Exactly. It's absolutely true. Number 3, also Steven Soderbergh, Black Bag, a really good, lean spy thriller that, where all of the tension comes from conversations and not shootouts and all these other things. Just people talking in rooms, having really interesting, fascinating conversations about the human condition. Found that to be really good. Obviously love Michael Fassbender and Cate Blanchett, fantastic in it. And the supporting cast is really great as well. And then we get to the cream of the crop, the top 2 here. I would say 28 years later, just recently saw this one, still buzzing about how unique and kind of out of left field and kind of just a big swing that they took with this one that's definitely going to piss a lot of purists of the franchise off, and has, as I've seen. But I've also seen with equal enthusiasm a lot of people who are just super, super thrilled with the direction they're going with this franchise and how they've opened up the universe in a way that I don't think the other films ever really alluded to, that it was going anywhere else, so it's exciting to think that there's still story here to explore in some world building. Finally, yes, Sinners. I don't think, at this point, this is the movie to beat for me this year. Obviously we got Oscar season coming up, but I can't see this movie not being in my top 3 this year. I saw it 3 times now in theaters, and I'm really excited to to see if this movie has legs this Oscar season, because that would be really cool.
I think right now it's got the narrative momentum. It's giving me, in terms of just the way I feel about it and the way I see how people have attached themselves to it and how it's being talked about, really reminds me, and we'll see if it continues the same sort of story momentum, but it reminds me a lot of the Everything Everywhere All at Once energy, how it came out early in the year. People really loved it, like unabashedly, and just all year people kept talking about like, there's no way it's going to get nominated for Oscars. That's just not the kind of movie it is. And sure enough, it got nominated and then swept.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I think it right now, I have a hard time seeing that not. I mean, in terms of just at least staying in the conversation long enough, I think it's got pretty good odds. Great call out. A couple of others I'm going to shout out. Life of Chuck, Laron, I've come down pro on the movie. I don't think I'm in love with it the same way a lot of people seem to be, like head over heels for it. But I like a lot of the ideas and sort of putting a lot of the way it sort of emphasizes the value and sanctity of life in a way that we don't really get in a lot of movies these days, particularly in American movies, where it's usually the opposite about how cheap life is. And so I like the sentiment. It does teeter on sentimental quite a lot, and for some people, I think it's going to turn them off. But there's just a lot of moments. Mark Hamill has like a really standout performance that was surprisingly moving and memorable. And the conclusion of the film left a really strong impression. And just in terms of how I'm thinking about life and death, and what is it to the wholeness of a person? What does that look like, and what's that mean? And the way they sort of tie that back to the opening act of the movie as well. So I'm gonna give it a shout out. It's not my top 5, but I want to call that out because that is an interesting movie that I don't think a lot of people saw that's worth talking about. Okay.
I totally missed that one, and just got served a bit that Mark Hamill did with Stephen Colbert, I guess sometime recently in promotion for this film. I don't know if you guys have seen this or not.
No, not yet.
Okay. Yeah, I get it was like from before, like the algorithm somehow found it for me, and it's pretty. It's like, Colbert is like making a bunch of really super nerdy Star Wars jokes, and Hamill is just like, yeah, but I'm here to promote Life of Chuck. Like he's wearing like a Life of Chuck shirt, and I was just like, I have no idea. I've never even heard of this movie before. Somehow I missed this like a month ago, and let me go. And then I like looked it up. I was like, oh, I guess I'll just wait for this to hit streaming at some point.
Pretty soon. I mean, that's the other thing. The movie just didn't get marketed very well. It actually was had the audience award winner from the Toronto Film Festival last year, where it premiered. I'm pretty sure it was Toronto, right?
Yeah, they pushed it. It was kind of in the Oscar conversation for last year,
but they didn't have a distributor, and it had been released.
Yeah, they didn't have a distributor. It hadn't been released, and so they pushed it to this year. So now there's a significant amount of people who have seen it already and already reviewed it and everything, but we're just now kind of coming around to it coalescing as a potential, awards contender. I don't know how far we'll go.
I don't think it's got the momentum. I mean, I guess it could get like a little award season.
Mark Hamill,
campaign.
maybe supporting nom, maybe if there's some enthusiasm.
Probably not, but maybe. I'm a big Mike Flanagan fan. I'll watch anything he does, and I think he's doing a great job doing a non-horror story. I do understand that it is going to err on the side of overly sentimental for probably a lot of folks. Yeah. My top 5. Laron, it's kind of heartbreaking. It's not Mission Impossible.
I know.
The Final Reckoning.
I kind of wish it was.
I kind of wish. Maybe that's why I felt like the first half of the year was not as strong.
It's Tom Cruise's fault.
I had a lot. I didn't realize.
It's Tom Cruise's fault that we got that the Dark Universe is over, and it's Tom Cruise's fault that we didn't end Mission Impossible with a shabam.
Yeah.
It's still. It's
got some pretty cool stuff in it, but man, rough last movie. My number 5, also Predator, killer of killers. Wow. Dan Trachtenberg really gets Predator in a way that no one since the first Predator film has understood it. It's kind of crazy. He understands just how badass the characters, but he understands that first movie, which is you're just following this very human story about these badasses doing stuff, only to find out halfway through that, oh no, this is actually a Predator story. Mm-hmm. And I love how he does that super duper well in short form without spoiling it. It's a series of vignettes of the most badass warriors in human history. One's a Viking, one's a samurai, and then eventually get a World War II pilot. I'll leave it there. Mm-hmm. But you get these different stories of how these people encounter the Predator and how they combat it differently, and it's just super cool. You know what else is super cool? No one who made that movie has worked on animated movies before. It was all built in the Unreal Engine. Kind of crazy it's that good.
Yeah.
For a thing that seems like a little, like almost a throwaway promo. It would have been back in the day one of those straight to DVD movies that came out either right before or right after the theatrical release to kind of like try to drive some buzz home. And I thought this was freaking awesome. It's fun. It's digestible. I could easily see myself throwing it on again. Is it like grade A material? No. That's where I'm like, to Chad's point, I'm like, there's some pretty big quality gaps in my top 5. And what wins it over? It was a 3-way tie between Predator, The Phoenician Scheme, which I also caught, by the way, and Final Destination, Bloodlines. But the thing about Predator, Killer Killers, I'm probably gonna more likely to rewatch that one.
Sure.
So that gives it the edge. Number 4. Doesn't feel like my number 4, but then when I actually stack it up against everything else, I just don't know where else to put it. And that is Mickey 17, a movie that I feel like is deeply flawed, but it's taking some really big swings that I really appreciate. Also, I believe it's now on Max. Love the Robert Pattinson performance. Love seeing Bong direct. I don't love it though, which is why it's weird it's even in my top 5. That just tells you where I'm at right now. Yeah. And like it's pretty good. Not nearly as good as most of the things he's made. It's still better than a bunch of these other movies that I thought were all pretty fine and are pretty good. So yeah, Mickey 17.
Did you guys cover this on the show already? Like, did you do it in depth?
Yes. Full episode.
Okay.
Yep.
I thought so. I just wasn't sure. I do feel like this is one of those that like really got hurt by like the industry internet, like movie internet, right? Like if we didn't know how much it cost and that it was delayed by over a year, and like this had just dropped as like the next Bong Joon-ho movie with like, and we all thought it was like a $30 million film. Like I feel like a lot more, like it would have hit a lot more, and instead it was like, well, it's so expensive, and why was it delayed? And there's this like. I feel like a lot of the backstory kind of didn't really do this any service.
They kind of predispose us to kind of like have, You know what I mean? To have critiques and then
and then on top of that, it's his first film since Parasite, which was like such a runaway success story. I mean, masterpiece.
It was number one on the 20 best movies of the 21st century with Time magazine. So I
don't think that's a wrong choice either.
No.
I mean, it's that good. I watched it with Lauren a few months ago, and I was like, no, this movie still freaking slaps. Mm-hmm. Mickey 17 does not slap. And the other thing is, to your point, Chad, the other thing is, even on the press tour, Bong Joon-ho, in so many words, just came out and said a few times, well, I was looking at what I wanted to do, and Warner Brothers said they had a lot of money, and they had this script they wanted to adapt. And so I said, yeah, I'll do an American movie for money. So it's like there's not even like a
passion.
No.
Sense.
So again, but I do think that's part of the narrative film internet that, Chad, you're talking about. It did kind of dampen the enthusiasm, I think, for sure.
Yeah.
My number 3, Laron, you and I think our top 3 are identical. Black Bag, number 3, Soderbergh coming in. Nice, lean, tight, sexy spy thriller. Kept me on the edge of my seat for 90 minutes. And 90 minutes, my friend.
Yeah.
How to make a very memorable, fun spy movie. Yeah. Virtually no action sequences that I'm sitting here thinking, this is the greatest spy movie I've seen in a long time. Mm-hmm. Right there at number 3, Black Bag. Check it out. Almost no one saw it either. And I think everyone here should. Number 2, 28 years later as well. Not much more to say that Laron hasn't already said. I love that it is speaking to both human nature as we know it with a fresh set of eyes, a strangely optimistic set of eyes, relative to themes of zombie movies and survivalism that we typically see. And I love that it's in some ways it's looking at the human condition from a positive perspective. Yep. Simultaneously, it's also speaking to the moment that we're in with a lot of the sort of isolationist movements that we're seeing. In this case, obviously the UK, Brexit being the big one. But I do think there's also a hint of that, at least, that applies to a lot of countries around the globe, and sort of how that is shaping the psychology of those countries and the way people think about themselves and their neighbors and what have you. So, yeah, man, Danny Boyle really knows how to direct. So good. And then last, I've already said enough, but number 1, Sinners. It's the one to beat. You said it, Laron. Yep. Listeners, what are your top 5 films of the year so far? You can let us know by hitting us up on our social media channels, facebook.com/Cinematropolis, Instagram at the Cinematrop, or drop us an email at thecinemetropolis@gmail.com. Gentlemen, I have put it off. This was going to be, I put this off as long as I could, really. We have now spoken for 30 minutes about not dinosaurs. So the people have demanded we talk about the dinosaurs. We were having
so much fun, Caleb.
We were. It was such a great time. And then the people demanded we talk about the topic and title of this episode. Jurassic World Rebirth. Review coming at you now.
Dr. Henry Loomis, this is Zora Bennett, our mission specialist.
Sorry, what mission?
This would be a medical breakthrough that could save countless lives. It comes from the largest dinosaurs on the planet.
Oh my God.
Fortunately for us, all these species exist in one isolated place. Can you be ready tomorrow?
I can guarantee your safety. I mean, more or less.
More or less?
He's your guy?
We're the best at moving things and people in and out of places they shouldn't be.
Move up towards Barbados, avoid government patrol, but there aren't that many anymore.
Why's that?
No one's dumb enough to go where we're going.
So according to IMDb, Jurassic World Rebirth is described as 5 years post-Jurassic World Dominion, an expedition braves isolated equatorial regions to extract DNA from 3 massive prehistoric creatures for a groundbreaking medical breakthrough. A few fun facts about Jurassic World Rebirth. This is the 7th entry in the Jurassic Park/Jurassic World franchise, and it is the 4th film under the Jurassic World label. Rebirth was written by David Koepp. By the way, he was the screenplay writer for the original Jurassic Park and has not touched any of these since. Interesting.
Also a co-writer for Black Bag, right?
Yes.
So
Choices. I have to wonder about some of these, but
he got paid.
He got paid. That's why all these people are doing this.
Yes.
But it's okay.
This was not a slim 90-minute Dino movie, though.
Yes.
No. If only it were a slim 90 Dino movie, maybe. This film was directed by Gareth Edwards of Godzilla, Rogue One, and The Creator fame. The film stars Scarlett Johansson, Mahershala Ali, Jonathan Bailey, and Rupert Friend, among a few other people. Real quick, I'm just jumping around here. Gareth Edwards, how are we feeling about Gareth Edwards right now, guys? I'm increasingly. I was really pro Edwards, but
I have a like a tug of war with this one because I mean Rogue One I like a lot more than a lot of people. It's one that my mom enjoyed without knowing anything about any of the Star Wars movies, and she could give a shit about them. So it definitely has something that is palatable for anyone. So I enjoyed that one, and then also, the Creator visually looks great, but it's a pretty basic, generic. We've seen this movie. It's District 9. It's every sci-fi robots versus so. There's like a gravitas that's missing from his movies. That aesthetically his movies look really good, but there's something else that's not quite clicking, at least to make him distinct as a filmmaker. So that would be my general take of him based on the things I've seen so far. So
okay, yeah, I'm curious because my
competent, but not.
But not like
not inspired,
you haven't
not
inspired. Yeah,
not inspired.
Yeah. That's a good way to put it. Competent, not inspired. That's a good way to put it because, my thoughts on him have evolved pretty significantly in the last 5 years. So I'm kind of curious what you guys think. Chad, what's your take on Gareth Edwards?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, right? Like we don't get, and again, we've talked about it, but like we don't get those other Godzilla movies without his Godzilla, right? We don't get Godzilla Kong. We don't get Andor without Rogue One, right? And what happened on the set of Rogue One seems to be something that all those people are going to take to their graves and not actually tell us. But like, the Creator, I mean, I feel like he was that was his like, let me do something small again. And then like, look, we'll see what happens with this. Like, judging by, I know we'll get into the numbers, but like judging by the early dollars, like we will be getting more Jurassic World movies, and whether that is him or that this opens the door for, someone else to kind of come in and start making more of these anthology type stories or something is to be seen. So in that sense, like I kind of have to thank him. Like he's opening the doors for a lot of other material that maybe ends up being better than what he did. But like he needs to, maybe a couple more at bats. Like we'll get, like I feel like he could be the type of director that like the back half of his catalog we end up being blown away by because of, he cut his teeth on kind of, all of these other like big budget monster movies.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it too, because I liked Godzilla 2014, did not love it, but liked it. And I do agree that the later entries were a lot better, or at least they were more in line with what I signed up for all of them. And we don't get those. And Laron's tired of hearing me talk about it, but I think Andor might be the greatest piece of Star Wars fiction ever made, or at least in top 3. And we don't get that without Rogue One. So there's something to be said about that. And the Creator, I think, just pretty rough script, honestly, but he made like $50 million. It was like 50. It was like, I think it was like 50 or 40 or $50 million. Looked like a $250 million movie. It looked better.
An Oscar nomination too for visual effects, right? So
yeah, and we've seen. Godzilla -1. That director was also a VFX background director, so there's something to be said about that. But I think to your point, Chad, I don't know if he needs better scripts to work with. I don't know what it is. He is missing something. There's just like a something missing. There's clear talent on display. He's clearly really good at a lot of things. But yeah, I haven't found the one that's the one where I'm like, he's the next Christopher Nolan or Ryan Johnson or something like that, for example.
For sure. The great Gareth Edwards movie has not yet been made, but there's there's glimmers of potential in him. I respect him more than I do like J.J. Abrams or someone someone who else has these bigger franchises than kind of piles a bunch of dog shit on him. Like he's trying to do something really unique, even if it's coming off a little generic, maybe, in the proceedings. But.
Yeah. To your point, right? You're talking about 28 years later, right? Like he either needs to find like his Alex Garland, right? Where it's like 1 + 1 = 3, or you're coming from like the effects world, right? Like he needs his Keanu, or like he needs to find a star that like he's going to build a bunch of things around that is going to work with him or something. So I'm excited to see. I don't know if we know like what's next for him. I don't know if he's said that again. Like I don't know if he gets to try and make another one of these. I'll keep going to his movies. Like I don't think he's made anything bad. He's just made kind of C's and B's.
Yeah. Yep. C's and B's it is. I was looking. He does not have any officially. He does not have any projects in the pipeline yet. So we'll see what happens. Which it's kind of good for him. At least he's going to have choices after that. He kind of needed a W after The Creator, for being real. Not because it did a lot of stuff well, but box office wise, that was not did not perform up to expectation. Though I think it did make its money back, given the budget being so low. But
for sure.
All right, back to Jurassic World Dominion, though. Sorry, a little side tangent, but I thought it was relevant here because Gareth Edwards is a guy who hasn't come up on the show a ton, but he is an interesting director doing interesting things we're talking about. So, Jurassic World Dominion. So, Spielberg and Co-op have been apparently developing the script since the release of Jurassic World Dominion, or either right before or right after. And that was sort of a thing they were doing separate from Colin Trevorrow and whatever crazy bad things they were doing with that movie. Gareth Edwards wasn't actually brought on as a director until late 2024. So, let's see. We're sitting here in July of 2025. How many months is that? 15 months? Okay, so 15. So Universal shows up with infinite money and says, "We need someone to get a Jurassic World movie out in 15 months. Can you do it?" And Gareth Edwards at the time was saying, like, I need a break. But then they ask you to make a Jurassic World movie, you say yes.
Yeah.
And so that's how long it's been since he's signed on. Principal photography, the beginning of production, began in Thailand in June 13th of 2024. So we're talking 1 year. Yeah. They made this thing in 1 year.
Yeah.
That is insane.
Yeah.
For a movie of this scale and budget and what have you.
And you've alluded to this several times as I'm like, that new trailer doesn't look as shitty as the last 3 movies I've watched. And you were like, yeah, Laron, but here's the thing.
Caveat.
They rushed this. So I'm not convinced that they've cobbled together a decent movie in this truncated time frame, no matter who's involved. And I was like, okay, damn it. You're right. But now we're here, and as we're going to get into it, we'll see how successful he was one way or the other in that.
We are. I was like, it's like everything about this movie on paper. I was like, all right, Co-op, good writer. Edwards, pretty solid director. Oh my gosh, Mahershala. All these A-listers.
2 Oscar nominees, I was like, two-time Oscar winner.
This is how they're like, how can we solve this? How can we get this thing out as fast as possible? Get literally the best people working in the business on this right now. So this film, speaking of the cost, was budgeted at $180 million, and it grossed it opened in the United States alone, by the way, $147.3 million over the 5-day release window, because it did release on July 2nd, which is a Wednesday. If we look at the more traditional Friday to Sunday window, it was $91.5 million. It is the lowest of the Jurassic World movies, but also, these things kind of make tons of money. For comparison, if we look at the 5-day window, so I just said, you have Jurassic World Rebirth at 147. 2015's Jurassic World, the original, made $258 million. Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom was at $181 million, and then Jurassic World Dominion at $172. So it's coming in underneath all of those, but still 147.3 is, especially this year, is a pretty significant win, I would say.
Yeah, nothing to sneeze at.
Nothing to sneeze at. And I think I'm going to start the review with this question because it might help our listeners understand where we're coming from when we talk about dinosaur movies. And I'll throw it to you again, Chad, first. What is it that brings you to the Jurassic movies? What do you want to see when you think Jurassic Park sequel?
I mean, I want dinosaurs on an island, and I want as many dinosaurs as we can fit on that island. And that's it. I mean, I will own my bias. Like the original Jurassic Park movie was released on my birthday weekend. It was the first time I was 15. It was the first time I went to like the movies with just my friends, and like was like dropped off, hung out, watched the movie, like totally blown away. So like
that's cool.
I just have eternal love for this franchise, and like it's a core memory, and so I give it a lot of leeway, but like I just continue to want to go back to like I want as many dinosaurs that I can see on an island. And as we talk about maybe how this stacks up against some of those other movies, like this one delivers on what I wanted out of what I expect out of a Jurassic movie.
All right, lots of dinosaurs on an island. I think that's pretty important, because we've had a few of these, the last couple in particular, where it's a lot of dinosaurs not on an island. And as cool as I thought that sounded, it turns out it's not. They didn't do it in as cool a way as I thought they could. And then for some reason, locusts showed up. But we're not talking about the locust. Laron Chapman, do you sign up to see locust when you see a Jurassic Park movie?
Not the proverbial closing capper of this franchise. That obviously it wasn't, but.
Cap of the franchise with the next sequel is 2 years out. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So yeah, I mean, I think I've said many times before. I mean, as I've been doing my I love that Time Magazine just recently did that best of the, like we're talking about movies the best of the 21st century, but got me thinking about what are movies that I think are perfect, like what are perfect movies that stand the test of time. Jurassic Park is obviously one of those films. I think it's a perfect movie. I don't see a single flaw in it. And it doesn't matter which generation you watch it. They have not made a Jurassic Park or a Jurassic World movie that has looked better than Jurassic Park, which is insane to me given the technology that we have. Somehow these
32 years old, it still looks better than everything.
It still looks better than every movie with dinosaurs that's ever name another one that looks better. You can't. So I feel like
it looks better than 65, the Adam Driver movie.
just slightly. No, but I feel like for me, it's chasing the high of that movie that I just don't think has ever quite, even from Spielberg himself, has not quite ever reached that level again. But I'm always going for it, and I feel like even with the introduction of I think the third one in particular was one where a lot of people dipped off and started like, what is going on with this? And then we had a pretty long hiatus before we got to the World franchise. And I remember the excitement I had as a fan thinking that, oh, this is exactly what I needed. I need a new Jurassic park, like reboot kind of.
The park is open, Laron.
The park was open. Like I mean, when I tell you, I was sitting there giddy in the theater, and then I just had that sinking feeling that like, oh, this was only cool when I was younger. Unfortunate for me personally, and like, and so, I feel like I'm going to these hoping that they're gonna make dinosaurs scary again, because I still think that the first one is a genuine horror film. And not just like you have creature features that are silly and campy. That movie's not campy. That movie is suspense. It's well lit. It's like tension. It's setup and payoff. It's all these different things that work really well. And I just feel like these movies have missed why these dinosaur movies were suspenseful to begin with. So I'm going to it to see if they could ever return to that former glory. And
we'll see. Rebirth. Has it been reborn?
Has it been reborn?
The former glory. Listen, yeah, you said it. You said the perfection perfectly. It's a thing I literally tell anyone. There's a handful of perfect quotes movies. Terminator 2 is one of them.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think, Jurassic Park is another one that I'm like, it's perfect. Like, there's nothing they could add to that movie that would make it better. It would only like slow it down.
Yeah.
Because the pacing is impeccable. The characters are great. I believe, though, those are all real characters. That's what I wrote down here. Smart people asking big, thoughtful questions with the answer being revealed in an intense and thrilling, character-driven fashion through science fiction.
Yep.
Like, you're exploring very human questions that a lot of us have contemplated. You build a sci-fi scenario about playing God around the thing, and then it's like, well, let's just see what happens when people go too far.
Yeah.
And it's fantastic. It's still one of the smartest blockbusters ever made.
Yeah.
We have not had a smart one in a while. I would argue Lost World had smart ideas that were poorly executed, but there was still that like attempt to ask big philosophical questions.
Sure.
Don't think it was super successful in the execution. 3 was a ride. I actually kind of like it, but it's not saying, it's literally just, it's dinosaurs on an island. And
yes.
Yeah.
And it's a fun time.
Yeah.
And then, yes, we got Jurassic World, which on paper, and it was gone for so long. You're like, we haven't had a Jurassic World. I think it was like 14 years.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, but what, Jurassic Park, but what if it actually worked? And I'm like, okay, you've got my attention.
Yeah.
And the opportunity was so good.
Yeah.
And yet, see, Laron, this is where I want to stop you. You were not wrong for wanting a good Jurassic Park follow-up with Jurassic World.
Yeah.
Colin Trevorrow let us all down because he basically was like, he thought what you thought. Oh, it's only cool for kids. So I can write it like it's for kids. Yeah. Jurassic Park is written to be accessible by young adults, but is definitely a very adult story, adult science fiction. Okay. Yeah. And Jurassic World is made for kids.
As soon as velociraptors are doing head nods with when we're talking about like you know what I mean, like what do you call it, like in the trenches, kind of like what is the signals they do like in war and whatever, like I'm just like military signs and stuff like that, and he's like nods his head to Chris Pratt. I'm like, I'm out. Because now raptors aren't scary because they listen to us, and they I just can't. So that's what I mean. It's
well, that's why we need to keep making scarier dinosaurs.
Dinosaurs.
We need to like up the ante. I mean, it is hard too, right? Like in 1993, they didn't make that to be like, well, and then also what's the theme park ride and what's the merch,
right?
And what's the right, like what's the 360 around this, and you fast forward 30 something years, and like it kind of like they're not going to spend $180 million on a movie unless it can check all those boxes. At least a Jurassic Park / World movie right now. Could someone make a really great $30 million dinosaur horror movie again? I don't know, because we haven't even gotten that. Like no one has attempted really dinosaurs in a horror setting since then either, whether it's good or bad.
Isn't it crazy, given how wildly successful the Jurassic Park franchise is, there aren't tons of other dinosaur knockoffs? You would think, like any other franchise, like or mega franchise, there's knockoffs
so many
galore.
Shark movies. There's so
many superhero movies. Like it's dinosaurs. No one else does even attempts.
Even
dinosaur
alligators.
movies.
There's a lot of alligator movies. There's not, dinosaurs.
Yeah, and when you start looking up like lists of, like what other dinosaur movie should I watch, or what else, like half of them are like Ray Harryhausen stop motion dinosaur. Like most of them were made before Jurassic Park that are on a lot of these lists. Like it just seemed like, to your point, they made Jurassic Park. Everyone else just said, well, I can't do that, and like everyone, everyone just stopped trying.
But everyone but Universal learned the lesson that you can't recreate Jurassic Park. Like, we already made perfection, so
they're just like, well, we'll do Jurassic Park, but with fill in the blank, like Jurassic Park, but with aliens. Jurassic, like we just can't do it with dinosaurs.
Yeah. Why have we not gotten someone to try and make a tried and true Jurassic Park, but with condors? They gave us all the clues in the first movie. John Hammond even said it, and no one's tried the condor movie yet. Come on.
Yeah. Hey.
So it's interesting. So all that said, Jurassic Park does I think, hold a really unique position in our pop culture. And then I think most people agree the first movie is basically a flawless masterpiece. And then all the sequels, it's like, I don't know, we're going to get into this one, but in general, I don't know that anyone loves capital L favorite movie of all time, any of the follow-ups, as much as it's just like, well, I'm here to get my fix.
Yeah.
My
dino fix.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, man. Well, with all that said, Jurassic World Rebirth. This is interesting because it seemed, when I was researching the making of it, really feels like Spielberg was a lot more hands-on with this one in particular than he had been in the previous Colin Trevorrow produced films. And, whenever it gets Spielberg involved, I lean in a little bit.
Yeah.
Do we think this was was this a successful rebirth of the Jurassic World franchise? Laron Chapman, I'll start with you.
It feels slight, which is weird. You know what I mean? It feels like its own self-contained, like, adventure film, which is not bad as a standalone kind of like thing. If you're just like going for like a kind of a, I don't know. It's weird to say a light dino vibes, like, but, so it's weird that this is feeling slight considering this is the, seventh movie in this franchise. But I will say that I had my expectations for this were in the toilet, because of Dominion for me was abysmally bad for me, like to the point like it was offensive. Like midway through, I was like, what is this bootleg Mission Impossible subplot we're going on? And I came here for dinosaurs. We're talking about bugs. I don't, I want to see some T-Rex tear up some shit. That's what I came to see.
And they even sold us on bringing the original trio back together, and
the
then
OGs back.
It did nothing with
it. Did nothing with them. You wasted these characters. I'm just like, it felt offensive in that regard. Like just that this is a cash grab as cash grabs come. So. But the one before that was not great, but tolerably bad, I would say. Like I could put that on and just kind of watch some things in the background and without being offended by it. The first one, I know that. I mean,
it can exist in the same room as me, and I'm not offended.
If Dominion's on, I'm turning the channel because it gets me pissed off. But then Jurassic World was like fine. It was fine. Like it was a fine blockbuster. I have not rushed out to rewatch it, but it is something that's like, it has moments in it. There are echoes of what we like about these kinds of movies infused into that first one. I just feel like it's been on the downward spiral for a while, and so my enthusiasm for this franchise has gone down. I just think that considering how bad Dominion was, anything was going to be preferable. And I feel like Gareth Edwards, as he's kind of described, is a competent director, uninspired, but competent. There are some competently made set pieces in this that are memorably entertaining and well done. The story is in between all of that is pretty paint by numbers, so it doesn't resonate with me. But this one was at least mediocre and tolerable. I wouldn't say it. I'd say it's better than the last two, at least.
Tolerable is a great way to put it. This is a tolerable movie. All right. Well, I'm glad that we did not feel offended, Laron, much like the last one. That will take us to you, Chad. What did you think of Rebirth?
I think that, so one, I will say the first Jurassic World is a perfectly, I've probably watched that one the most because I think it's like a perfectly watchable TNT Saturday afternoon movie, if you still pay for cable. And it's like, oh yeah, this is fun. And they're in the hamster wheel and, oh yeah, they're going to see the water show. Yeah. I mean, like there's fun moments in that. I think Rebirth is better than any of those last three. I would put it above it. I don't think it's just recency bias. I do think that this is the Force Awakens of the Jurassic, the Jurassic Park / World series. It was, to your point, if not paint by numbers, but like how do we just take this template and make everything a little bit bigger, right? Like, so we definitely get, and we'll get into it, like there are set pieces of this that are lift and replace, how do we do this, but with this cast? How do we recreate that scene? But what is the reason that we're all getting them onto this island? So, for me, like, I actually I don't think Dominion is the worst of them. I actually think Fallen Kingdom is the worst of the Jurassic Worlds, just because of how forgettable it is. Like, at least we all remember locusts. That's true. If you didn't do any research, would you remember anything about Fallen Kingdom?
I know a bunch of rich people sell off dinosaurs in a room.
That's the only thing I remember is the auction scene.
Yeah, the auction scene.
But any other scene in the movie, any other set
Doesn't
piece,
the volcano
nothing.
blow up on the island in that one too? Is that the one that
Yes,
one?
they have to go rescue.
And the long neck is stuck behind. I remember. Okay, it's all distant, but it's faint. It's all in the. It's all in the distance.
Also, do you remember a plot point that never gets brought up again? They figured out how to clone humans in that movie.
Oh my gosh, you're right.
The young girl is a clone.
You're right. They never brought that back up.
And it's just like that was a plot point that clearly they thought they could go somewhere with, and it goes nowhere. Like, we never hear from that. I mean, we could, like, it's hanging out there, but like, I think it's a forgettable movie, which I believe is worse than Dominion, which like still has some enjoyable set pieces, even if you don't love, Jurassic locusts.
Yes.
Does that have the where they're riding on motorcycles with the raptors in the city, with the raptors with lasers on their heads or something like that? Is that it? Okay? That was the thing that happened to me. I'm not crazy.
Yeah, that's what I remember. Them on motorcycles, and there's a whole like.
Well, there's a motorcycle chase in the first Jurassic World.
Yeah, no, but this is the one in a city.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
Like a foreign city.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay.
Because again, they were like, we've got to leave the island. Let's spend most of this movie in a mansion. That's what we all want to see.
Yeah.
From a Jurassic World.
Yeah. So, okay. I think, calling it the Force Awakens, the Jurassic World parks attempted a Force Awakens, because what I have, was thinking is this is a back to basics. Let's just, what is the essence of the original on paper? Let's strip away everything else. As Chad said, it's people on an island with lots of dinosaurs. What kind of people? Well, we've got the greedy capitalist, first and foremost, because you have to have a villain. Yeah. You have to have your gun for hire, who's just there for the money. And then you've got ScarJo and the scientist, who are kind of, well, that's actually a bigger problem I have with that. ScarJo's there for reasons I don't fully understand, but I think it's money. But is it ? And then obviously Jonathan Bailey's scientist character, who has like a scientific interest. So you bring a lot of those fundamentals, and of course, we have to bring a family back into it too.
Yes,
somehow.
Kids in peril.
Yes, kids in peril. That is a core part of what makes Jurassic Park the original work. Yes. So they bring all of those elements back, and they execute it competently, as Laron said. This is Gareth Edwards. Is competent. There are sequences that are fun. There's a really cool one on a boat at the end of the first act that I thought was pretty thrilling. Then there's a whole lot of walking and talking without dinosaurs, weirdly. Mm-hmm. And then we get to a climactic thing I won't spoil. I do not like mutant dinosaurs. We just need to stop. That's all I'm going to say. We just need to stop. It's been a done idea this entire time. It's never been executed well. And this movie makes another go at that. We'll talk more about what that looks like in spoilers, but it didn't work for me. But I was never upset by what I was watching. Yeah. And when you have people as good as Mahershala Ali, who has virtually nothing to work with on the script, he really does his best to charm it up to where you're buying into that character. Why is he so protective of these kids despite being a gun for
get hurt?
No. Yeah.
What a photo hanging up on above his steering wheel isn't enough of a backstory to care about him.
They have him having one touching scene with ScarJo.
When you can see the anguish on his face, it tells a whole story.
Yeah. Yes, we know everything that we needed to know about what happened there.
Yes, exactly. So it is functional and works as a movie. when you get down to the details, I still have a lot of qualms with it. However, I think this is actually a lot better than I expected. But that's because my expectations were in my basement's basement.
Yes.
So keeping that in mind, mediocre is pretty exceptional.
A better place to land than in the toilet.
Yes. Okay. Well, how do we compare this to the previous entries? We've already talked about this a little bit, but I would say this is more Spielberg inspired, for sure.
A lot of fat's cut off. It's not convoluted. It's not, which I felt Dominion was. There was way too many movies it was trying to be, and there's only one of them I cared to watch, and it's the one that we got the least screen time. But I feel like this one definitely, like you did, trims the fat. It's pretty streamlined. We meet the cast of characters, we get their motivations, and we're on the island pretty quickly, and it's just about being stuck there with all the things that are going on. And so the conflict is, you're stuck on an island with dinosaurs. That's all you need, really, for one of these movies to be entertaining, at least. So I think this is considerably less dumb than some of the other ones. Like the dumber.
I feel like
ideas.
they trust the audience more at this one. Yeah. I think that was one of my biggest problems with the last three, in particular the last two, was I felt as if Colin Trevorrow hated that he was a part. I know he technically didn't direct the second one. That was Jay Bayona, but he was a producer, and I think he had a screenplay credit on that one.
Okay.
And I got the sense that he thought that this franchise is really dumb and just for kids who are really dumb.
Yeah.
And I felt like I was being talked down to regularly and almost insulted. Yeah. Whereas this movie does not do that. It treats the audience with a certain amount of respect. Yes, we have the photo, we have the shorthand, we have the actors. Yeah, audience gets it. We don't need to get in the convoluted stuff. Yeah, the science fiction, there's a lot of hand waving, but they get it, right? And when you're coming for a summer popcorn movie, I feel like that works a lot better than over-explaining or being very navel-gazy, as I often found Trevorrow's films to be.
Yeah.
I don't know, Chad, how would you compare this to the previous entries?
I agree. I mean, it is. I think we got just enough that, like, if there's a extra 25 minutes of like deleted scenes where we get a little bit more backstory on, why ScarJo over any other mercenary, or why this like what happened to this team of folks in previous. I don't know that I really care, and I feel like in this world where, and I think we may talk about this later, but like of like superhero fatigue, and where like I feel like I have to watch 11 movies before I go see the next one. Like, I feel like if you've never even seen a Jurassic movie, but you just know, hey, there were dinosaurs made and people used to go see them, you could walk in this movie and be totally entertained. Like, you do not need to know about anything. And I think there's a little bit of sci-fi hand waving that explains like why they have to go where they have to go, but like I didn't need to know. Whereas to your point, like even in Dominion, there were references to all these other things that had happened in those previous two movies. And like, you have to know why I should care about the original, triad of folks from the first, like, they tried to endgame it and it didn't work. And this, I think, works totally fine as, again, a reboot / a rebirth, where, that's where, I think if this just kicks off this like anthology series of other dinosaur movies that happen to take place in this planet where, yes, dinosaurs exist in this part of the world, I'd be totally fine. Like, for me, I don't necessarily need more. And I know we'll get into, what could they give us that would like satiate that appetite again? But, I don't know, like for this, I think it did the job of getting people interested in the franchise again. Yeah.
It's kind of shocking. It came so fast after Dominion and yet feels fresh enough. Ish.
Yeah.
Ish being the key.
Like the expiration date's on it, but it's like, it's just one day over.
Mm-hmm. Just, I can still eat this.
I can still eat this.
Yeah.
It's not going to kill me.
I thought it was a week old. No, it's only a day old.
like back to what I said before, if this movie had been baking for 4 years and there was, 6 months of reshoots and we knew that, but like if we knew all that backstory, I think we'd all be like, oh, this did not work. But the fact that it was like, oh my God, I can't believe like they shot this a year ago. I don't see them cutting any corners. Like I think all of the effects and all of the visuals and like everything totally works. So like kudos to them for that.
Well, I'm going to disagree slightly. I agree with everything you just said. It is no matter how you spin it, it is very impressive that this movie came together this well in that time frame, even with $180 million. We see movies that cost a lot more than that do not turn out half as good as this. So kudos to the whole team for getting a really tough assignment, and because they're all the best in the business, even if this is literally a gun for hire for literally every person working on this movie, I'm pretty sure, at least they all did their part to make it work.
Yeah,
I do think the VFX are pretty rough. I think it is the worst looking Gareth Edwards movie to date, because the VFX are usually a strong suit. Now, taking into consideration again the time constraints, I understand why it looks this way. But I mean, I think this is the worst looking Jurassic movie yet. I think it's worse than Jurassic Park 3, which came out in 2001. That sounds harsh, but it's because there's so much stuff that's obviously full CG. There's no attempt at the animatronic stuff. And it's
a lot
like
of the backdrops.
Oh, so much stuff was shot either on a green screen or on a volume, and you can tell. No, they did. There's also some scenes that are very clearly shot on a location. So I want to give them some credit. But yeah, lots of sound stages, volumes, all that stuff. It looks pretty rough, especially for my money, the high standard this franchise typically holds for its VFX. I mean, that was one of the reasons the original was also a masterpiece, was groundbreaking VFX. This one I feel like is pretty subpar. That said, I also feel like in general, VFX as an institution right now are kind of in a pretty dire situation. Like most movies look pretty terrible. So maybe this is just another one to add to the pile. Laron, did you have any thoughts on VFX?
Yeah, like again, save for two and a half sequences where I wasn't like hyper fixated on it. Yeah, I mean, it seems like a lot of the picturesque, more things that it doesn't feel cinematic in a weird way. You know what I mean? In the sense that there's not moments of quiet beauty. You know what I mean? Or moments of like, oh, this is like there's a scene where they try. There's dialogue alluding to it. Like what was it with the boyfriend who's kind of sitting over, and he was like, if this is my, I can't remember what he says, but the line, but he's talking about if this is my deathbed, and you're like looking out at the majesty of this island. I'm like, yeah, it looks. It looks pretty.
You can't play that John Williams music cue. I know what you're doing, movie, and this is not that moment from the first movie.
I will say there's not a single moment in this movie that earns the John Williams score, even though there's some interesting themes like that he's adding to it. I'm like, nope, you have not earned this. Nope, you have not earned this moment. Nope, you have not earned this tear. Nope, you have not. It's like, so I was just kind of like, show me the dinosaurs. I don't care about the humans in this, even though the actors I do think are doing the best they can with the characters they have. With the material they have, but I like you said, I'm not clamoring for backstory about what happened with ScarJo and whoever this person is that deceased that passed away. Like, we don't need that. We needed to know that this is why they're bonded. I don't actually need to know the backstory. So, yeah, I don't know. Visually, this is fine. I don't know if it's the worst that I've seen in it, but it's not a highlight for sure.
Well, gentlemen, we have more to talk about in the spoilers. What letter grade would we give Jurassic World Rebirth? And Chad, I'll start with you.
I'm giving this a B+.
Ooh, B+. All right.
B+ for me. Again, it checked all the boxes. It did not reinvent, but it reinvigorated the franchise for me.
Reinvigorated. Okay. That is a compliment for 7 entries in. That's a compliment. Laron, what letter grade would you give this film?
I'm going to give this a C right down the middle. Just very vanilla milk toast. Like, I can eat it. It won't kill me. I'm not excited about it. It's not bad. It's not great. It's just vanilla, So yeah,
vanilla.
C, very average. Yeah.
Dino vanilla.
Average. Yeah.
Does it, does vanilla, does that like fossilize? Is there a way to fossilize vanilla? I don't know. I'm going to give it a C-.
Okay.
I don't hate this movie. It gets enough right that I don't regret watching it. I think at the end of the day, it's largely forgettable, though. Yeah. Not now, Chad, to your point, it's not forgettable in the same way Fallen Kingdom was. Like, that movie made me a little mad. There are moments and performances. There's a lot of things here that I appreciate and can say they did the job well. Yeah. And it deserves credit for that. That said, we've been here before. We've done this plot beat so much better. I feel like we're just chasing that magic dragon. We're never going to catch, get that high again. It's why bother? I mean, even Rupert Friend here is doing his best imaginary mustache twirling at times, and I love it. But that can't save the movie. I mean,
so you remember when your mom said, "Hey, kids, we're gonna go get some ice cream," and you got real excited as a kid, and you're like, "Oh man!" You're thinking of all the things. You're thinking of like a banana split. You're thinking of a hot fudge sundae. All these different things in your head, whatever it's gonna be. Then she pulls up to McDonald's, and you're all getting $1 ice cream cone. And
the machine's broken.
And the machine's broken.
Yeah.
That's what this feels like. That's my review.
Broken ice cream machine. I don't want to sound harsh because I think there's enough here. I don't actively hate this movie, but I don't have a lot of super nice things to say other than that a lot of really competent people came together and made a thing competently.
Yeah.
We're gonna rank the movies here in a second, but let's start with alternate media recommendations as we do here. I'll throw it back to you, Laron. What else would you recommend either along with or instead of Jurassic World, Rebirth, television show, novel, music, video games, what have you?
Man, like we just said, there's not really a lot of dinosaur movies I could recommend outside of this franchise. Some of the earlier ones. But if you like creature films, then I think, like obviously most recently the Godzilla -1 is a strong entry in that, where I do think the human characters are more interesting even before you get to the Godzilla stuff. Any of the first two Alien movies, I mean, this is an example like of how to build tension before you ever see the monster. Everything's horrific before you even see the slimy thing. And so, and I feel like those movies capture the essence of what the original, Jurassic Park movie did. So yeah, I'd say check out those. Yeah.
Very nice. Great recommends. Chad, what would you recommend alongside Jurassic World Rebirth?
I'm gonna zag a little bit on this. Go to a museum. Go to a museum that has dinosaurs. Like, leave your house and go outside. Like, I was looking at a list of some of the best museums that feature dinosaurs. I mean, I am lucky that I live New York City, so the American Museum of Natural History has an amazing display of dinosaurs. If you are near Chicago, go to the Field Museum. Sue the T-Rex there, probably the most famous dinosaur. Like, for a while, you used to tweet, was a character on Twitter,
social media influencer.
If you want a specific piece of media, I'll smuggle in the Dresden Files books, and one of the earlier books called Deadbeat heavily features the Sue the T-Rex and the Field Museum in the plot of that book. So go check that out. But there are a lot of, when I was looking at these lists, they're all across the US, there are really great museums that feature dinosaurs. So go out, the next time that you're just hey, we don't have anything to do on this Sunday. If you're near any one of these places, just go out and actually get out in the world and experience this with other people. I think we could all use a little more of that.
Oh man, that's really well said. Because going back to the original, what was so powerful about that was how much it inspired kids and young people. God, now I know I'm old. And young people. Was how much it inspired them to seek out and learn about the dinosaurs afterwards. Mm-hmm. I know for me, when I was a kid, I got obsessed. Before Wikipedia, I'd actually go and read all the dino encyclopedias that had all these dinosaur books fiction, nonfiction I would read.
Yeah.
Going to a museum never goes out of style, I have to say. The one in Chicago, it's been a few years. I went back in 2018, I think. And best museum I've ever been to. Just mind-blowing. Obviously for the dinosaurs, but they also have some other really cool stuff that you can check out. Okay, I'm also going to zag to talk about a different movie that has nothing to do with dinosaurs that felt like a very quintessential summer blockbuster. And it's one Laron already mentioned on the show. And that is the movie I saw over my 4th of July weekend, F1. Now, F1 is not a masterpiece. F1's not groundbreaking from a story perspective. But you know what F1 understands? It understands the value of simplicity in a similar way as Jurassic World Rebirth. The difference here, I would say, is F1 is telling a very straightforward story you've heard before. The characters are also pretty thin. However, they cast movie stars to elevate all of those characters, and they just know how to make a great action set piece, being in this case Formula One racing. I'm not a Formula One racing fan. I barely knew anything about it other than the fact that a lot of my European coworkers at my last job thought it was the shit, and it got me to watch some stuff on Netflix about it. And it blew me away as a person who knows virtually nothing about the sport. And why did it blow me away? I kind of mentioned it's a thing you've seen before. In fact, there was like 3 or 4 times the tropes are so tropey. I was like, I don't want to spoil it, but there's like one of the times like, oh, there's this shot. I know exactly what they're going to cut to in the next shot. And it was really funny. I actually found that sort of a feature, not a bug. But the thing it does that I do not think Jurassic World Rebirth does well at all is it innovates technologically. So Joseph Kosinski, who had directed several movies before this, starting with Tron Legacy. He had also done Oblivion with Tom Cruise a few years ago, and most recently Top Gun Maverick. Mm-hmm. But what he's really doing is innovating with IMAX in a couple of different ways. Number one is the cameras that they shot. They were actually able to put IMAX cameras on F1 cars to create the sensation of going 200 miles an hour down the racetrack. Yeah. Now, when I heard him talking about it before I saw the movie, I was like, that sounds kind of like a gimmick. I've probably seen that before. No, I haven't. No, you haven't. Because you're probably used to seeing shots of cars going way slower than it looks like they're going, and they speed it up, or there's a lot of visual trickery to make it seem like it's going faster. You're actually seeing them go that fast from multiple angles, and they shot it for IMAX, so there's a lot of sequences that are actually shot with digital IMAX cameras that are placed in the car. And then for everything that's not IMAX, they chose something like not 8K, but like 6K, highly sophisticated Sony cameras. And they did that because what then they were able to do is in post-production is make it look like an entirely IMAX movie. So usually when you go to an IMAX movie, whether that's the real IMAX like you'd see from a Christopher Nolan movie, like shot for a film, or even the digitally IMAX, there's a lot of aspect ratio shifting that happens. They actually made it appear to be all one seamless view. There was no shifting. And I was very immersed and engrossed in the race sequences, even if the story is kind of, it's simple, it's predictable, all the above. But man, I walked out of it. I also went in with pretty modest expectations, if I'm being honest. Thinking, this is the best thing I'm going to get on 4th of July, sure. And turned out to be just a grip-roaring good time at the movies. There's my mini review of F1, but I think you should go see that instead of Jurassic World Dominion because it has all the same popcorn antics, but done better. And technological innovation, which I found pretty compelling. So go see that instead. Back to dinosaurs, though. How would we rank the Jurassic movies, worst to best? Laron Chapman, I will start with you.
Okay. Well, the first one.
There's only one right answer.
Worst. There's only one right answer for the first one.
And there's only one right answer for the worst and the best.
Okay, well, we know what the best one is.
Right.
The worst is Dominion by a long shot for me. I really, it's when I do my decade of worst movies, it's definitely on that list. Now, that being said, I don't think the other ones would make that. So it's a far gap. I've seen worse movies, than the other movies in this franchise besides Dominion. So Dominion is definitely at the bottom. I think Fallen Kingdom comes right after that, and then I would put, I would probably put this on before I'd put Jurassic World on. Just because of the they're trimming the fat. We're just jumping right into the the island and the dinosaur stuff. So, I'll put Jurassic World next, and then I'll put Jurassic World Rebirth, and then I'm gonna put Jurassic Park 3, and then Jurassic Park 2, and then of course the original. So
it's almost reverse order, with the exception except for Rebirth. Until
this movie, which I'll give if that's the win here for Gareth Edwards, then is that until this franchise, I like these movies in descending order. I was like, yep, each movie is worse than the last one.
Yep.
And then this one is better than Dominion. So there's that.
There we go.
There you go.
It's a feather in the cap.
Rebirth. It's better than the worst dino movie you saw in this franchise. So, yeah. And I also defend Jurassic Park 3 a lot. I don't think it's great, but that is one that has it's just lean. I think it's not even 2 hours. It's just very fun and fast. And those pterodactyls, man. There's a really cool pterodactyl sequence in there that's franchise high for me.
There's memorable stuff in there. I still remember the sound of that freaking phone that's going off the whole movie.
Yes.
Which was another dumb, it was such a dumb gimmick, but it was also kind of hysterical. Yeah, the dinosaur eats the phone. And
yeah.
Anytime they hear the ring, it's like,
oh no.
It's like do 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 do, and they're like, wait, where's that? Yeah. I'll give you that. Well, mine's not too far off from yours, but first I want to hear, Chad, what is your ranking of the Jurassic movies from worst to best?
I am going to jump around more than Laron did. I am, as I referenced earlier, I'm putting Fallen Kingdom down at the bottom. We're on an island for like 15 minutes in that movie, I think, maybe 20 minutes, and then in a mansion and all these other places. I am then putting the Lost World Jurassic Park, so the second one, down at number 6.
Steven Spielberg directed.
Yes. That doesn't matter to me. I'm not a devout follower just because it's Spielberg, but this one again. They leave the island, the whole like shipping container, and the dinosaurs loose in San Diego. Like I'm not here for that. Then we'll go Dominion, so we'll keep that in the bottom. Then I will go Jurassic Park 3 in the middle of the pack at number 4. Then Jurassic World. I'm putting Jurassic World Rebirth in number 2, and then obviously Head and Shoulders number 1, the original Jurassic Park.
Number 2.
All right.
I'm happy for you, Chad. Yeah. I'm serious. Like, I'm glad you liked it that much. I really am. I forget this. A lot of people really do not like that second movie. I forget this. I run into these people like Chad. So Chad, you're not alone. I do. This is a
I know.
regular occurrence where I'd be like, yeah, it's not nearly as good as the first one, but I still enjoy it. And like, I hated that movie. And I was like, oh gosh, really? Mm-hmm. Okay. I did rewatch it a couple of years ago, and it's definitely not even in the same league as the first one, but I have fun with that one.
I think it's the Jeff Goldblum of it all. You still get a great Jeff Goldblum crossover from the first to the second, and then the third one is a dip because you don't really have any of those characters.
Yeah.
So that kind of like throws it off a bit, but.
Well, Sam Neill comes back for the third one, right?
Sam Neill does. You're right.
But they don't really. The third. I mean this. The third one really is a ride. Like it's all lean. It's all kill or no filler in terms of like they don't really spend. There's like I think the one plot thread is he's trying to maybe rekindle some sort of. I don't know. He's friends with Dr. Sattler and she's married to someone else. I don't even know. Yeah, I can't even tell you what the character arc in that movie is. I don't know.
I feel like that one was just. We're gonna get him back on the island, and like we'll figure out why after we shoot it all. Yeah, like it just makes it's the least reason for returning to the island.
Well, yeah, no, it doesn't make sense. But frankly, it's the same reason all the people came to the island in this movie, which is money. Right. Both in the fiction and out of the fiction. Yeah. My ranking, not 100% in line with Laron, but pretty close. Bottom of the pack, Jurassic World Dominion. It's offensive. We need to destroy every copy. I mean, I'm not pro burning media, but if it were to just disappear off of every shelf, I think the world might be a little better. But that's for the movie gods to decide. I guess the sands of time will make that decision for us. Then we have Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. Again, you know what sucks about Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom? The one thing I can tell you I remember distinctly about that movie was not that it was good or that there were good things about it. It was the promise of Dominion, where they're like, wait, the dinosaurs are now running rampant in the real world. And I was like, this movie wasn't good. But you know what? That's a really good premise for a third movie, and that's why I hate the third movie so much. So then I put Jurassic World Rebirth. This is competent. I enjoy it. It's fun enough. I think it's pretty forgettable, but at the same time, nothing wrong with it, really. I don't hate it. So it's right there in the middle. Then I go Jurassic Park 3, which again, I think is, I mean, it's a Joe Johnston joint. I think Joe Johnston, a very underrated director just in general. He's really good at,
Jumanji.
Jumanji, exactly. That's what I'm saying, man. Old school filmmaking, like the old school, like family filmmaking, family action film sort of things. And, the raptors in that are pretty scary. They amp up the raptor terror in that one quite a bit, give them feathers on their head, but they later retconned out.
Yep.
And the pterodactyl scene was pretty great. So again, there's set pieces in that I'm like, yeah, it's an iconic one. Then I'll give it to Jurassic World. And I'll give it to Jurassic World because the premise is so good that I still remember how excited I was for it. And I don't think they totally dropped the ball. I think it's fun. It just ends up being more targeting kids and a little dumber, or a lot dumber than I was hoping. But the premise is cool. I had fun with it. But God, I'm so glad we don't have to see Chris Pratt in another Jurassic movie ever again, hopefully. And then after that, we have The Lost World Jurassic Park. 2 T-Rexes, man. I love the hunters showing up. We get Pete, what's his name? Pete, I always say his last name wrong, but the Pollisworth or something like that. He, the bald hunter guy who's heading up the hedge. Anyway, I mostly just like all the actors doing cool stuff with animatronic dinosaurs and that. It's not great, but it's fun. And then, of course, Jurassic Park, masterpiece.
Yeah.
Listeners, you too can weigh in on your ranking by sending us an email at thecinematropes@gmail.com. All right. Well, if you don't want to be spoiled on the wealth of mythology and story that awaits you in spoilers for Jurassic World Rebirth, go ahead and tune out now.
Now, eventually, you do plan to have dinosaurs on your dinosaur tour, right? Hello? Oh, hello? Yes?
I really hate that man.
Number 7. 7 Jurassic movies. 32 years. 7 movies since 1993. And, we've seen this core idea about mankind playing God, yielding dire and unintended consequences. They do it on an island. They try to go do it on the island again, bringing the dinosaurs back to the mainland. And then they go back to the island again. And then they go back to the island again. And then they go and take the dinosaurs off the island again.
When are we going to learn?
I'm just saying, if this does not sound repetitive to you, I don't know what does. We have exhausted in my opinion, we have exhausted this premise. It's like, again, we had perfection. We've been chasing it ever since, but we've exhausted this premise, at least in the first 6 movies. My question for you all is, what is Rebirth as a soft reboot? What does this bring to the world that we haven't seen before? And Chad, I'm going to throw it to you first on this one, since you were like the biggest fan of the movie.
I don't. Okay, so yeah, I agree. I don't know that it brings anything new. I think it brings potential, right? Because to your point, like, we were promised ever since the closing shot of the first Jurassic Park, right? We were promised this, like, oh, they leave the island, right? And we've been given glimpses, whether that's they've escaped, we've taken them there, right? They're now running across the Serengeti and Dominion, right? Like all these other ridiculous things. So I do appreciate that they're like, no, like we're gonna retcon all of that, right? They can't survive anywhere but across this like equatorial band. All right. We're just gonna White Lotus the shit out of this now, right? Like if we do anything,
White Lotus season 4,
it is gonna be like in jungles. It'll be like in the heat, right? There's no dinosaurs in the snow. There's nothing, right? Like they're not going to be in the pyramids, right? Like forget about all of that, right? So like I do like that they're like, okay, if we do any more of this, it is contained to some type of area. It is, yes, it is the Force Awakens. Like it is trying to reboot and kind of refresh this original. What I hope is like, can we get the Rogue One of Jurassic Park? Like, hey, give me a $50 million, I don't know, noir detective film. Give me I don't know, like give me
John
another
Hammond.
genre. Yeah, like give me
John Hammond, a Jurassic Park story.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like there's, I mean, and again, like it turns out, right, that we like, they're not only, okay, it makes sense that there's on this other island, which was in the second book, right? They've kind of tried to reference this before, but this idea that the research never really ended, right? Like we already saw it in the first Jurassic World, like, oh yeah, no, we need to keep making bigger and better things, right? So like, and this is the idea of like the rejects are all there, which I think, if we're gonna play this in a real science kind of way, yes, that would happen, right? We know that
100%.
would happen, right? So if we're gonna keep this kind of somewhat in the sci-fi realm, what else is going on, right? Like there are so many loose threads from the other movies that without doing a backstory, like a ton of backstory, I think that they actually could pull on. And I think they left enough breadcrumbs here to be like, oh yeah, like, did we really figure out regenerative energy 17 years ago and we just haven't brought it like to other parts of the world? All the way down to that whole like temple sequence, like the flying, like the stage 2 of the video game where like we go up into the into the wall. Like they even kind of right? He's just like, wait, what's going on here? We're like, who built this temple? Like they literally say that out loud in the movie. There's something kind of interesting there. Like, could we tug at that and find out what else is going on? So I think that this leaves enough breadcrumbs and gives us a little bit of a focus for new movies to come out that maybe won't cost $180 million.
But will Universal not make a movie that's $180 million is the question,
Yeah.
I mean, I will say we are entering into a potentially interesting chapter of Hollywood where they might actually do that because they have to survive. But also that'd be bizarre because it goes against the model that they've been working off of since this franchise started.
Just bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger every time.
Every time. Yeah.
But
$50 million. I like the idea. I like smaller bets. I'd be all about that. Laron, what do you think it brings? What do you think it brings?
It brings like a faint memory of why you used to like these things. Like, I mean, think about like, I mean, I keep thinking about being a child. I associate this movie with my childhood. So like the ice cream cone metaphor is pretty spot on for me. But,
that's the faintest compliment I've ever heard. What new does it bring? It brings a memory that I once loved this thing.
Yeah, I feel like it was, I'm trying to think of like that distant faint memory of like, someone's giving you an ice cream cone or the ice cream truck. Yeah, like I'm going to stick on the ice cream metaphor because this feels right. Like there's just that nostalgic quality that you get. Like every time there's a trailer from these movies, I'm still, even with Dominion being a thing that exists, there's still like a tinge of like, if it was good, you know what I mean? Like if it was good, man,
be on board.
Wouldn't I be on board? But I've been proven wrong 5 times. So maybe I got to give up on this idea that they're going to figure this out because at this point it just feels cash grabby. But you know what? For the people that love these, I'm happy that they're still showing up for them. So maybe it's just a franchise that's no longer for me. You know what I mean? Like, and that's okay. That's fine.
That's what I was going to add. I mean, I don't know. Like if you're 13 and you see this movie and then you go to Universal's Epic Universe, before school starts in August, like you're definitely going to want to buy a Dolores toy.
Yeah.
Right? Like you're gonna want to buy, the mutant raptors or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Like if you're 16, right? Like you might want. So this is the same thing with like the Star Wars franchise. Like I know we're all chasing, like I want to see the movie as if I was 13 again, but like if you are 13, I bet this probably
feels like that.
What you want out of it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
You bring up a good point. So when I went to Universal Japan earlier in the spring, and I was in fact very excited to go to Jurassic Park area. And they have, well, not only do they have a couple of different rides, both of them fantastic. One was the Flying Dinosaur, which is like a roller coaster. One's like a little Jurassic Park the ride, and you like ride in this little water thing, and dinosaurs break out. Anyway, super cool. Yeah. Also in that area, they had like staff members dressed like engine staff members walking around with like animatronic dinosaurs that were moving like dinosaurs would, that you could like pet, and they were doing like a whole show and tell with it. And man, people were just like piling around to watch. Even me, I was like, wait, what's that? Oh my gosh. So Chad, I think you're onto something. I don't know that it's good for cinema, but I mean, it does drive interest in the IP as a whole, and we should not
for sure
undervalue the commodification, the video games, the theme parks in particular is a big one for Jurassic Park. It does complete that mission of making a lot of money at the box office and also serving as a giant ad campaign for all the other stuff, I just think the first movie is just so good.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm not opposed to the movie doing all of that stuff. But like, could it be a good movie first? And maybe the reality is that's just not the world we live in anymore, because there's too many boxes or business goals that it has to serve, that it sort of limits its ability as a piece of cinematic storytelling. Now, that does not mean this movie that we get, I think, is very solid. And I think to your point, if I was younger, I probably would be a lot more into this entry for sure.
For sure.
But I'm just sad.
And as just as I agree. Yes. Like, I don't think we will ever recapture that. That said, at the time, I don't think we felt that the message of the movie was heavy handed, but like, if you were to do that same movie now, I think you would get people calling it a woke movie. I think if we made it about climate change, or we made it about science, or like people on the left would claim it's an anti-science movie, and people on the right would claim it's a woke, climate change propaganda. So I don't know that it can say as much as like what that first one actually wanted to, and I think was successful to say it in 2025 and going forward. So like, if we can't do that, if we can't say anything meaningful, at least just give me a fun ride, right? Like, which is kind of, if I'm going to, the average person goes to what, like 3 or 4 movies a year, like give me a movie that makes me worth leaving the house. And I think, again, the box office, while maybe diminishing, it did make it did make more money outside the US than inside the US in the first 5 days. So like, in that sense, it's successful, right? It's getting people back into movie theaters. More so than a lot of other things that, like, as much as we all love Sinners will not make nearly as much money as what Jurassic World Rebirth made in the first 5 days. Yeah.
And mentioning all the box office numbers we read earlier were the domestic box office numbers. Actually, the first 5-day gross worldwide was $322.6 million. So, almost double the budget. So it's already a success.
Yeah. For sure.
If it doesn't make another dollar, it would not be a failure.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, yeah, there's something to be said about that, and it's gonna keep making tons of money, and then clearly, we're a part of this too, guys. This podcast. I looked at the schedule beginning of the year, and I was like, I don't think I want to do another Jurassic Park movie. I think I even said last time, I don't think I can do it. But then we had all the talent, and there was a lot of things, and then I went back and looked.
There's some enticing qualities.
And then I looked back at the numbers from the last time. I was like, man, people really do love the dinosaur stuff. Right. So here we are, part of the problem, or part of, not even the problem, we're just part of the machine.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but
I mean, I've got all my movie and pop culture podcasts that talked about this on like, released it last week before the holiday. Like, I got them all queued up to listen to after A, I saw the movie, and B, after we talked. Like, I didn't want it to, steer me in any one direction, but like, I got a whole bunch of things that I will definitely go back and listen to and be like, oh yeah, what did everyone else think about this?
Yeah.
I have a feeling most of them are going to be more like you guys than like me, which is totally fine.
Yeah.
So I think the question I was sort of asking is, what does this bring new to the franchise? And if I'm understanding and hearing Laron, and I'm hearing you, Chad, as well, what I'm hearing is it does not bring anything new to the table, and we're not necessarily happy about it, but we understand it, and maybe we're just, at least Laron and I are just like raising up our hands and saying, okay,
we accept this.
We accept that this is what this is.
This is going to be a thing. And it's like the Marvel movies. It's
yeah.
like, we accept this. Some of them are getting better, but, and maybe they will. Maybe they'll surprise us, but, we accept that this is a thing that is going to continue. We just hope that you don't, insult us when we go to see the next one.
And then I look over at Chad, who had a great time and ranked this as his second favorite one, and I say, Godspeed. I'm so happy for you. Yeah. And again, I don't think this was a disaster. So, but the answer is there's nothing new. There's nothing new.
Even I agree.
Okay. Well, I did want to just really quickly, in the spoiler section, did you guys have anything about the cast that was worth calling out? I mean, I will say I was really confused, and I didn't even care, so it wasn't a big deal, but I really did not understand Scarlett Johansson's motivations at all. She's in it for the money. She's in it for the money. Jonathan Bailey says, but what if we could make it open source?
Who is this for?
And she's like, oh, that's an idea, but I like money. And then she keeps saying it, and at the end she's like, yeah, let's open source.
I risked my life. We toppled over in the ocean. We did all these things, but if we could save all of humanity from this one, disease-riddled thing, then isn't that more noble? It's like, well, yeah, but you should have known that before you went here.
Yes, that is. I in fact agree with that sentiment personally. But Scarlett Johansson, I do not believe that
you changed your mind.
Changed your mind that way.
I do not believe you changed your mind. You all became noble at the end of this. It's like, no, we went through this hell. You're gonna pay me now. Yeah. It's like, but.
Yeah. Yes. But yeah,
if she works for some type of Blackwater-esque, like an ex-military mercenary, like, this can't be the first time that she's been put in some type of dubious situation and asked to do things that maybe aren't the most conscionable, So to that noble point, yes, like, to that point, if there was something that happened on their last mission that makes them all reframe it in some way, maybe we could have gotten a little bit more about like why she's now calling it. I mean, I have a tough time with this because I worked in the pharma industry, and so the continued kind of big bad of like, oh, pharma is just greedy and like we're doing this because they think they can make money. Like, at the end of the day, their job was to like make money off of curing the number one killer of people on Earth. Like, we find ways to pay for those things. Like, I don't feel, this wasn't like, oh, we need to collect all these samples to make a new atomic weapon or to make, some type of like neurological weapon to fight. I don't like, at the end of the day, the company still had some kind of noble ideas. And then the last thing that would have just like put it over a little bit more for me was like, you would have had to give him, when he's like, oh, we'll open source it. Like, I needed 5 more sentences of like, I know a group of people that can sequence this DNA, right? Like It would take a lot. Like, it's not just something that you're like, I can take to my home chemist and like, they'll know what to do with all of this DNA and blood and tissue that we just captured. I don't know who can do that other than a giant, multinational pharma company. Like, and so for him to just say like, we open source it, I needed a little bit more explanation of what that means. Yeah, to me, that was the same equivalent of like in the first movie. Again, we all love it. It's perfect, in every way, except for when she's like, oh, a Unix system. I know this. And then it goes on to show something that is not a Unix system, right? So like there's just a little bit of the science like falls down. So again, if we're going to judge it against the first one, the same thing happens. I would have just liked a little bit more explanation of like, oh no, I know this underground group of people that we can bring this to, and like here's what they would do for it. Like that would have, I think, made it A, more believable, and B, maybe a little bit more convincing for ScarJo's character.
Right. Sure. And maybe it's like they've been competing with the big pharma to get the cure first. You know what I mean? Just something like that.
We just happen to be here and have it.
Yeah, because they just sort of present it as like a cheat code. It's like, we just put the answers on the internet and heart disease solved. Easy. Done.
Yeah.
Yes. Would have been the perfect cameo for Mark Cuban to roll on in. We're going to take this to Mark Cuban's drugs. Like he's the person that can do this for us.
He knows what to do.
Yeah.
I'll take a Mark Cuban cameo. He's of the Sharks. He's my favorite, So, okay, well, I don't have much more to say. I feel like they were all so paper thin that I don't really have any analysis. But I was I did not. I was like, did I miss something about her flopping? But
no.
No. Okay, well, this is more of an analysis of the industry because that's all I could really talk about. This movie is Old Man Shouting at Cloud. Things are changing, and I would argue, I wouldn't say a crossroads is it's this year. We're at a period in time, I would say a junction in the history of cinema, and what comes next is pretty uncertain, in my opinion. And I say this because Jurassic World Rebirth, while we've already said it's already a winner, it's already made lots of money, but it has performed less well than its previous three predecessors. So, again, if you look more closely, each entry of the Jurassic World movies has performed lower than the one that came before it, starting with 2015's Jurassic World. Now, again, they all made so much money, it doesn't matter. It's like when James Cameron made Avatar 2, they're like, is it going to be a success? I was like, guys, if he makes half of the amount of money as the first one, it's one of the biggest movies ever. So because it's just so big, it's
compared
almost
to the first one, maybe not, but in terms of movies in general, yes.
Half of grossing $1.6 billion, it's pretty good, So that said, it's almost too big to fail in that regard. Whereas even though it's making less and less, it's still a huge hit. However, it is on the downward trend. And if we're looking at superhero movies, we are also I think this is a very consequential summer for the future of superhero movies as we've known it. There's huge question marks around whether audiences actually still care about comic book costume characters and capes. Fantastic. Superman coming out next week. Big question mark for the future of DC. Huge question mark. Fantastic Four is another one. We know we're going to get the most expensive movie ever made with the Avengers, Doomsday, and Infinity Wars, or not Infinity Wars, Secret Wars. But like beyond those, though, I like if Fantastic Four is not a hit, I think there's a lot, and Superman's not a hit. There's a lot of doubt in terms of the frequency. We've already seen reports that Bob Iger is telling Feige to cut his budgets. Like there's a huge shift in the industry. And even if we look at animated films, Pixar. Mm-hmm. A decade ago, they could put out whatever they wanted. $1 billion. Coco, an original movie, made almost $900 million over Thanksgiving. Now, granted, Coco is an amazing movie, but we just had Elio come out, which flopped dramatically. Yeah. And I'm not going to sit here and say Elio is anywhere near as good as Pixar's best. It's also a lot better than some of Pixar's weakest films, and it just did not connect with audiences. And I guess what I'm saying is, what has been, I would say, especially during the 2010s, but even looking back to like the mid-aughts, last 15 or so years, the things that have been very reliable hits for studios that have really carried a lot of the industry on its backs are they're diminishing returns, it appears.
Yes.
So I guess my question for you all, and I think you're both uniquely equipped to talk about this. Chad working digital media, marketing background, also creating a lot of content like what we do here, and also movie cinema fan. Laron, obviously, really in the weeds in cinema. Like we watch this industry really closely. What is your read on the changing audience sentiment around these like historically successful franchises? Like, is it fatigue? Is it literally just the larger sort of like viewing habits shifting?
Honestly, I think the integration of streaming has really been a huge turning point for one. I mean, that coupled with COVID, coupled with, like it changed the model. And I feel like for a lot of audiences, when there's so much content, quality content too, that they can watch at home now, if you're not a purist like we are, a people who are avid film going people, and you can wait to see this on HBO Max because it's going to drop there eventually without marketing, and or if you can watch Andor at home, you know what I mean? Like if you have all these other like oversaturation of content. There's so much stuff. Anywhere you go, you can find something to kind of pass the time with. Whereas there was an exclusivity to these movies a long time ago, where going to the movie to see the new Avatar, I'm not Avatar, but the new Marvel movie was an event each time, and they were paced out a lot better. I feel like earlier on in that, where you waited so long to see something, there was anticipation, there was momentum built toward it. But here it's like next week it's this one, the next month it's that one, and then at the top of the year it's this one, and then they all converge again. So there's multiple. It's just there's so much. It's so oversaturated at this point. I just think there's no sense of discovery anymore. So the interest or the intrigue or the mystique behind any of this has been all but neutered by like having too much of a good thing for too long. And I think now, yeah, you're gonna have to actually do something radical. You know what I mean? Like to actually excite people again, because we're all just so been there, done that, seen it,
Mm-hmm.
So.
Well said. Chad, what's your take on sort of like shifting viewership habits?
Yeah, I mean, I echo a lot of the things that Laron just said. Like, we have too many choices of too many other things, right? In a world where like AAA video games are generating, $1 billion+ right? It's no surprise. I mean, I referenced it earlier. It's no surprise that this feels like a video game, right? It's like, oh, we've got to click the 3 things and then we defeat the final boss, and it's not the dinosaur wasn't the villain, it was the greedy guy the whole time, but like, right, like it's in that sense it's paint by numbers. There's a plethora of choices. There was a really good interview, I don't know if you guys listened to Jason Blum this week on
Megan.
About Megan, and he went on The Town on Matt Bellany's podcast, and like wanted to get at it. Was just like, I'm gonna Monday morning quarterback my own movie on like why it didn't do well. He proposes that like he thinks that A, yes, they are making too many movies, and B, especially in this summer, they need to be events. They need to be eventized. They need to give people a reason to leave the house and go out and sit in some air conditioning and like be communal, with a bunch of other people, in real life. And that's where I like just think like in that sense, Jurassic World Rebirth was successful. F1 has been successful, right? The unique storytelling, and I get like, I'm sure you guys will cover this once again, but like as we start looking at award seasons and things like that, like Sinners might be the movie that makes the most, that actually gets some nods next year, right? Like as great as maybe, I don't know, the Phoenician Scheme or the Materialist, like these are just not these are not movies that most people are going to see. Like they're just not. Maybe they'll catch them on streaming, but no one is like. And I don't know. You guys also like my nerdy friends, even my the people that I know that like will probably enjoy it. Like they're not going out to. They're not leaving the house to go see the new Wes Anderson film. Like, and great for him, but like he also knocks out movies like one every 18 months, and so it's like, if I don't pick up this one, I'll get the next one. I think Pixar's the same way, to your point. Like Coco, I mean, we used to hear about like, oh, the team travels and they went to like Mexico for 6 weeks and took a tour, right? Like, and Elio drops and it's like, again, we know a lot about it. It was delayed. There's probably was some like monkeying around behind the scenes because of some anti-Disney stuff. But like, you know what? Toy Story 5 is coming next year. So like, this is just a bump in the road for Pixar because like they know they're going to get a lot of butts in seats for Toy Story 5 next year. And like, that's kind of the model that they're going to have to move to. And I get, again, having worked in media, we've all worked, like someone's got to pay these bills. The only thing around it is going to be who are the next 10 Jason Blums? Like who are the next people that are going to figure out how to make a bunch of $2, $5, $8, $10 million movies to then be able to grow, right? Because the reality is most of these studios, I mean, you even said it, like the co-writer of this movie wrote the original one 32 years ago. Like, I don't know, like, what would a 27-year-old that, first saw Jurassic Park, on a Blu-ray, right? Like that didn't go and see it in a theater even, like, what's the movie that they're going to give us? Like, I think like we need more folks that are going to, that are enabled and empowered to do that for us. And until some of these studio folks just start like losing jobs or retire or die off, like we're just not going to get that, or until other people find ways of like finding these unique voices.
Yeah. No, I think you guys both said it super, super well. It's there's this weird commodification that's it's been, firstly, it's always been, film has always been the intersection of art and commerce. Okay, so I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, this is a new problem, but there has been this commodification, number one, where everything feels, especially as we move into this mega IP era the last like 15 or so years. Again, IP filmmaking has been around for a long time, but now it's literally like you were saying, Toy Story 5 is gonna pay for Leo's failure, no problem. Toy Story 5. That movie, the first one came out in 1994, 95. I think it's 94. It's so there is an IP-ification happening, and this is not new. But what I will say is it feels like it's kind of sort of like commodified a lot of films to where it's just air quotes content, which leads me to the one thing I would add here is it really is the attention economy. I mean, Chad, you were talking about video games. I think, and also, frankly, video games are also taking some pretty big blows right now as well. I don't know if you heard, Microsoft just did some crazy big layoffs, shut several studios down, canceled a bunch of games. And this is Microsoft, and well, they've been laying a lot of people off in Xbox lately, but they're taking a lot of hits too. And I think the thing is, kind of going back to what you were saying, Laron, is it's the attention economy. Film is not just competing against film; it is competing against TV. Which is also movies on streaming, but it's also TV series. Mm-hmm. It's also video games. Also, the big elephant in the room that I have actively chosen not to participate in, even if it bites me in the ass sometimes, is TikTok. TikTok is really, really soaking up a lot of the attention real estate for especially younger people, in some pretty dramatic ways, cutting even into other things like video games. So there's just a huge shift in the media landscape, and I don't know that the industry is going to be as big as it was when we were all growing up, where it was always growing. I do not think that means it will not be around, and I think we are always going to have such wonderful tentpole films such as Toy Story 5 and Jurassic World Rebirth that will keep the industry afloat. And if we're so lucky, we will continue to have the auteurs like the Christopher Nolans and the Tarantinos, and hopefully, to Chad's point, other new filmmakers who break through by just really doing some radical, innovative stuff.
Your Ryan Coogler.
The Ryan Coogler, exactly.
$100 million movie that is actually amazing.
Incredible.
And it is an original IP, so it's just like original. So it's just, So there's glimmers of hope interspersed between all the doom and monotony of the industry, and you just hope that studios give enough checks written to auteurs like someone like this who's going to do something unique and make money. You know what I mean? Like, in those lightning in the bottles where it's like, hey, this guy came from Fruitvale Station, movie that 5 people saw, you know what I mean? Like, but was a decent quality movie that had grassroots legs, and then got him to get Black Panther, got him to get all these different things. And you say, this guy knows what to do with all this money and excite people about movies again. And that's what we need. We need that young blood, that interest in it. Like you said, to Chad's point about the people empowered to do something unique with it and are not just looking at a paycheck. Because so many of these movies feel depressing in the sense that you're like, there's no imagination. It's just by the numbers, hit the beats, do the thing. Yes, it's competently made, but it's lacking inspiration. It's lacking
for us.
True.
Because I want to bring it back to, and this is where maybe I am starting to sort of shift the way I look at this a little differently, because that's where we're at.
Yeah.
I think I'm coming around to, if the film industry survives because we have movies like Jurassic World, Rebirth, I can live with that as long as we keep getting Oppenheimers and Sinners, like, or Barbies, like
every 5 years.
Yeah. Yeah. I just, like, before I was like, I can't believe these crappy studio films, and then I don't think this is a great one, but it's not the worst one. But it's like, I used to just be so down, and now I'm like, well, you know what? If it's keeping the lights on, if we have to get a Toy Story 5 so I get 3 more original Pixar movies, then that's just the bargain I guess we got to make.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Chad,
devil's advocate.
I mean, I'm looking at, well, first of all, a couple of things. One, Ryan Coogler. Ryan Coogler is the only person that I'll watch for 12 minutes explain to me the 9 different types of film stock that can be used to record films, and the 14 different versions of projection that you can now see across a variety of exhibition companies. So like A plus for that. I'm looking at the top grossing movies of this year. I mean, in the US, Sinners is number 3. And then the next one that is not based off of like a book series, a previous movie, like some other IP. I mean, number 16, we get The King of Kings, which is, I guess, it's a Bible story. So I guess
based on the Bible.
It is technically an IP. Then Elio, number 20.
Gosh.
And then we get down to, a complete unknown. I get, but like, again, not really how we think about IP, but again, the story.
Existing.
Yeah. We get into like the Nosferatu. I don't even, The Amateur. Do you guys know what that is?
Yes.
Yes, I do know what that is. Rami Malek will not be stopped.
Oh, yes. That's the one where they blow up the see-through pool floating.
Yes.
Floating.
Yes.
That's number 27, right? Like that's where we are, right? The top 10, like Sinners is the only thing in the top 25 that is not based off of like something else that exists. So like, and the reality is like a lot of this stuff is going to go and be like in streaming, or it's going to be, we're going to have to go, like, if you want these things, you're going to have to go and kind of support it and find it in other ways. And, to your point, like, of the attention economy, I think it's also incredibly hard to market movies these days. And again, like, these people just like, they don't know what to market. They don't know how to market. Like, they're just
where
at where,
and to who.
They're at the whims of the algorithm, and it's like every once in a while you get the Megan one that like they find like it clicks and it becomes a thing on TikTok, or
but they've already moved on like by the next year,
yes, like, for exactly, and so it's just really, to your point of, we were talking about earlier, like even all these movies that we knew we wanted to see that came out early this year, like we still didn't see half of them, for like a variety of reasons. So I think movies will always be here. But I think we just have to get comfortable with this kind of IP. And if we're going to get IP, like, reward the good IP, and we have to like let the studios know again what you want to see. And if we're going to have to play in the world of Jurassic Park, maybe it doesn't need to be just always retreads. Again, I think there's someone out there that probably has a really interesting idea for a $50 million Jurassic Park movie. And hopefully we get that. Or, I don't know. I mean, Marvel is, I don't even want to go down that, and what's riding on Superman and DC and everything, like, but I think the days of having the interconnected and the having to do homework before I go see a movie, like those are also over.
Yeah. I think people are very fatigued. Can you guys believe Captain Marvel made over $1 billion? Just comes out in 2019. Just comes out of nowhere. Technically original. Over $1 billion.
Yeah.
And then just 4 years later, we got The Marvels. Like it was like what, $300 million? It's a tough game out there.
Yeah.
Tough game. And the future is very uncertain. However, Chad said something there. If we're going to have to live in the world of compromises, reward good IP, and then super duper champion the good ones when they come, like the good original ones like Sinners, or even though I know it's technically IP, but 28 years later, another one where it's like, no, hey, go out and see this thing. That's why I won't shut up about freaking Andor. I know that's not a movie, but like, I'm like, no, guys, we've gotten so much mediocre Star Wars slop. Yes. This thing's actually exceptional in like a way that none of the other stuff is. Go watch it. And then of course, it's getting the Emmy buzz, but like from a viewership numbers, it's like way lower than the ones that people don't like. So reward good IP, I would say, is
go stream The Accountant 2 again.
The movie the crowds were dying for a sequel to The Accountant. All right, gentlemen, we've been talking about Hollywood. We've been talking about dinosaurs. We've been talking about 2020-25 so far. I think we've about covered it all. Is there anything else you would like to add to put a period on today's conversation?
Watch Sinners on Max.
Watch Andor and F1.
Yes.
That's and maybe Jurassic World Rebirth one day.
Yeah.
Chad, final word.
Revenge of the Sith grossed more money than Black Bag.
Facts. And I'm a part of it.
And that summarizes the entire podcast.
To be fair, Laron, we had never gotten a Revenge of the Sith re-release. Believe it or not, we had never gotten one. The first time in 20 years we had gotten and that is actually one of the ones people really like.
Yeah.
So,
Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, which Star Wars slop is your favorite? No, I'm just joking. Hey, Chad, thanks again for joining us all the way virtually from Maine while you're on vacation. I love that you pop in here for the summer. I know you and I have got some plans to have you back on again soon for some, sort of like summer wrap-up talks, maybe some Naked Guns of sorts and whatnot. But if people want to keep up with all the cool things you're doing right now online, where can they find you?
I produce and edit and make podcasts for other people. You can find me at addercoms.com, or I am C Parizman on all of the social networks that I want to be found.
Excellent. Great stuff, guys. Give them a follow. I also the LinkedIn follow. Lots of good content follow stuff the algo shows me from your profile. So thanks for that. Laron Chapman, where can people find you online?
They can find me on Letterboxd at black_Cinna_man, or you can follow my reviews on the Cinematropolis at Real Insights, REEL, with Laron Chapman.
You can find me, of course, everything over at thecinematropolis.com. But if you want to find me on social media, find me on any of the social media channels that I want to be found on. Most notably, I prefer you hit me up on Letterboxd or Instagram, C Masters Talk. That's letter C Masters Talk. Chad, thanks for joining us today, sir. It's been a pleasure. I'll talk again with you soon.
Thank you guys for having me. Always fun.
Listeners, you're in for a treat because next week you're going to hear me ramble about Superman. Unfortunately, it will not happen with Laron Chapman. It breaks my heart to my deepest. It's actually the movie I'm most excited to talk to Laron about this year. That's based on an IP.
Sure.
But yet Laron has a higher calling he is following. So
Laron is a slave to the dollar, the industry, if you will, the film industry, if you will.
You're co-directing a movie though.
Yeah, I'm helping co-direct a film. So there's that, like a slave to it and then complain about it. But hey, at the end of the day, we get that Rebirth paycheck, You know,
that's where we go. Gotta have the rebirth to keep the lights on.
Exactly, exactly.
You'll be sorely missed. We have a couple of special guests I'm super excited to have on lined up. You'll be sorely missed in the conversation. And don't worry, listeners, he will be back because we could not go without having a podcast review for I Know What You Did Last Summer. Laron Chapman would die before he would let that happen. So Laron's going to be back with us for a review of that, and we will, of course, get your take, quick thoughts on Superman.
Listen to me bitch about IP and talk about how the industry is going into shit, and then watch me elevate this dog shit horror film because it just speaks to my heart. So there's that. Hypocrisy at its best. So there's that.
Oh, gosh. Well, I can't wait for one. This is the one for me, one for you. Caleb's going to gush about Superman, and then the next episode you get to talk about I Know What You Did Last Summer. So who are we but hypocrites talking about the system?
There's that.
Part of. So that's right, listeners. So you can catch us next week with Superman, and back in 2 weeks with I Know What You Did Last Summer. Not to be confused with the original film. This is I Know What You Did Last Summer 2025. I just need to make sure it's explicitly clear. It is the new one.
Yes.
Until next time, look up.